It's time for Windows Weekly, and it's a classic good news, bad news, bad news, good news, bad news situation. Brad Sams will join us to talk about the new breaking news on Xbox, plus we'll talk about the Windows upgrade issue and a whole lot more. Windows Weekly is coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 467, recorded Wednesday, May 25th, 2016. Don't click the red X. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Veridesk. Veridesk easily converts your existing desk or cubicle into a standing desk, so you can switch between sitting and standing to stay fit and active at work. Learn more at veridesk.com. That's VARIDESK.com. And by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century with a fast, easy, completely online process. Check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/windows. And by Igloo Software. Igloo is an intranet you'll actually like. It connects people with the information they need to do their best work. Try it free at igloosoftware.com/twit or sign up for a live demo to see it in action. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. And this is a show so big, we had to bring in an extra panelist. Paul Thurrott is here from Thurrott.com. Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. And the man in the middle is Brad Sams from
pushing his head.
He's also He's also at Thurrott.com. Hey, Brad.
Hey, Leo. How's it going?
Nice to see you. So you got a big scoop.
Yeah.
Should we start with that?
Yeah, let's start with that.
All right. Okay.
Always good to start with something delicious. And Mary Jo is just going to love Xbox news, as we all know. The scoop is actually Hadoop now runs on Xbox. So
what?
that's
No. Yay.
Everybody drink.
Drink.
Yeah.
I'm having some tea right now.
This information started talking about a little bit earlier today, and then the fire hose opened up across the web. So Microsoft is hosting their E3 conference here roughly in the middle of June, and everyone's saying, hey, what are they going to be doing? So I think we have a pretty good picture of what is going on now. From what I've heard from a couple different sources inside and outside the company, is that Microsoft is working on streaming devices to bring to E3. Ooh. Now, there's looking like potentially two different models of the streaming device. One that might cost around $100, not quite sure on the pricing. It could be a little bit less, supposedly around the size of a Chromecast device possibly. And then a little bit larger of a device that's about the size of a handheld unit, a handheld gaming unit, somebody described it as, for around $150, maybe up to $175. And these are supposedly going to be more streaming-like devices. And on top of this, we're also hearing that there's going to be an Xbox Mini potentially coming, which is really, I think, going to be more like the Xbox One, just shrunk down into a smaller package. And this is looking like what Microsoft's E3 announcements are, at least from a hardware perspective, are going to be. It's going to be a good show. I really, really believe this.
Now, before I get all excited, we probably should clarify. That's game streaming probably, right?
Oh, yes.
Not TV.
This is all... Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And it makes sense.
I mean, it should do that too, right?
Is it streaming so I can do Let's Play videos on Twitch, that kind of streaming? I don't understand. Can't we already do that?
Yeah, but see, Paul and I were talking about this morning, and as begrudging as I hated to say, Paul brought up a good point that when Microsoft killed off the Xbox 360, they lost a low entry point into the media streaming market. And even though the Xbox 360 was large, it was relatively cheap. So Microsoft has announced that they've killed off the Xbox 360. They need something, a living room PC or a living room device that is less expensive than the large and bulky Xbox One. So that's where I think these two devices are going to live. And what I'm curious to see is that Microsoft has been making this big UWP push. And it would make a lot of sense with these devices, especially potentially the $150 one, that it would play games from the App Store. Now, obviously not like Tomb Raider. I think that would be a little bit too high spec, but there's a lot of casual play games very much like what Apple is doing with the Apple TV. It's going to be along that same vein, I believe, and in the same space, but under the Xbox brand and a Microsoft product.
So this is kind of on-demand gaming.
Yeah, there's going to
the
be.
internet.
I would imagine there's going to be an app ecosystem. There's going to be streaming from, I would imagine, your PC. It should be Miracast. If they're doing it right, it should be Miracast capable. And it's going to allow you to, yeah.
So I could stream from a Windows device video or whatever I'm looking at on my screen to my Xbox.
Yes, to this new device.
So Miracast
like a
enables.
Chromecast.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, just think Chromecast, but a Microsoft version. I think is probably.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that is
just
interesting.
think Chromecast, but it doesn't quite work properly.
But would it require like a special Netflix app on my computer to stream to it, or?
I can't imagine it would. Microsoft. One of the things they're good at is integrating all of their solutions. Now, they don't always integrate them perfectly, but they do know this. I would imagine you're going to use the Xbox app on your machine, or they're going to give you a nice little share icon and say, you know what, blast it to a Miracast-capable device, which just so happens to be these new products. But I think Microsoft is actually, and this one's a little bit more on the fringe. I think this is more of a Redstone 2 feature, but we'll see how Microsoft plays this out. I had heard from a source, actually 2 people, that Microsoft is looking at bringing the Xbox interface actually to the PC as well. And for everybody who cried when the media center went away, I think this solution might actually be what they're looking for.
So give me a couple of use cases, because I still am not quite getting it. So
with the Xbox interface or the device?
Just the whole thing. Give me just, pretend I'm an idiot. Not such a stretch.
Well, that's not too hard.
And then show me how. Okay, great. So, and here's this thing I can buy. What do I do with it?
So you want to imagine you want the Microsoft App Store, which is growing. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect, but it is growing. Imagine you want to get those apps onto your TV. Right now, you don't have a good scenario. They are bringing the App Store to the Xbox One, but Hulu, for example, has a Windows 10 Windows App Store app. If you want to put that app on your TV, there's not a very elegant solution to do that, at least in the Microsoft world. Yeah. And I should say inexpensively. You could do it potentially through the Xbox One, but that's a couple $100. So that's one scenario, is getting Microsoft's App Store into the living room. Remember, Microsoft wants to win the living room. They've been playing in this arena for a very long time. And now there's a lot of low-cost entrant devices like the Apple TV, like the Chromecast, that they don't have a competing product, and they need something in that demographic so that they don't lose those customers and that they can stay inside the Microsoft world.
Well, you know what they need is a way to get their own media properties onto a TV, right? Because they have a TV and movie service, they have a music service, and there's no way to get that onto a TV other than a PC with a Miracast device.
Yep. And I think a lot of people, to this day, still trust a Microsoft product, even though they've had some gaffes here and there. Microsoft is still a very strong brand name. And if they see, hey, look, here's a Roku or a Microsoft, to the lay consumer, Microsoft would be a very valuable product on a shelf like that.
These devices sound to me like a Chromecast equivalent, meaning something a little smarter than Miracast, a dongle. Yep. And then a standalone device that's a thin client kind of thing, a small, like a Roku type device. That's what those sound like. I mean, I guess we'll see.
And I want to point out, this is not a new rumor either. This has been around for a while, but I've just finally got a lot more details than people didn't have, and I really think they are going to show up here soon.
Do you think do you think it matters Cortana is coming to Xbox? Like, how is that playing in with all this?
I have really mixed feelings about that. I think Cortana is a good solution, but I don't think, somebody asked me, they said, hey, is Cortana going to replace Kinect? And Kinect didn't do so well, so hopefully not, because Cortana seems to be on a better trajectory than what Kinect did. And this could be their living room solution. Now, I hope they're not thinking this is going to be like an Amazon Echo competitor in any way, shape, or form. Right. But I don't know. I don't quite know how Cortana would fit into this in a way that's going to add significant value. But I'm certainly betting they're going to, try to leverage that to some capacity.
Okay, give me some more scenarios, because I still don't get it.
Well, Leo, think about the Xbox One today, right? You can put this thing in your living room, and I think you have.
Yep.
And it's a really big box. It has no internal expansion at all. In fact, Brad and I talk about this every morning. When I walk into my office in the morning, my office is silent except for one thing: the power supply on the Xbox One, which makes a crazy amount of noise. And most mornings, I actually pull the cable out, pull the plug out of the wall just to shut it up. And so I think just getting an Xbox device into the living room that's not a power hog, that's not a noise problem, that's more efficient just electrically, I think is a big deal. And it's really just the same scenarios that people use Roku, Apple TV, Chromebook for.
It's not okay. So I was focusing too much on gaming because it's not just gaming. Then
game streaming would absolutely be part of it. It's a Microsoft device, right? And so game streaming is a key part of the whole advantage to the Xbox ecosystem. That you can do this. I do think you would be able to stream games to the device. I think that to both devices. I mean, I think that would be a point of owning one, right? Maybe the big differentiator.
But this, and not to derail the conversations, but Kotaku actually, about an hour after I made my podcast that I did this morning with all this information, actually kind of came out and said the exact same thing that I was hearing. Conveniently. And there's one other tidbit that came out from this, and Kotaku rammed this in their headline. Microsoft is actually working on another piece of hardware, what we believe will be for the spring of 2017. And they're actually talking with Oculus potentially about a VR partnership for that device. I think that might be a higher end potential Xbox. I don't know if it'll be an Xbox One replacement. For many,
like a 4K type thing.
Potentially. Microsoft, and Paul, I think you might have scooped this or you've talked about this. Microsoft for a while has been wanting to get away from a console being a dedicated piece of hardware. They want the console gaming to be just essentially for them what they're good at, a software package. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Microsoft try to leverage their PC industry partners to figure out a way to kind of break the traditional console model that we're all used to, that, hey, a new console comes out every 7 to 8 years and you buy it once.
You have an Xbox spec, like an OnLive kind of device where it's basically streaming.
I mean, just, and get the crazy thoughts out there. So I know Microsoft is looking at bringing the Xbox interface to the PC. Imagine the next generation Xbox really isn't tied to hardware. It's just a software service.
Yeah,
and that
like a
if
media
you have
center
a
application on top.
If you have a high-end gaming PC, they put certain restrictions on it. It's Xbox Live and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, I still think they'd sell a dedicated box for the living room for this. But then any PC could really tap into what Xbox is, and now they'd have to overcome some barriers where the PC could be, a better performance machine and give those users a competitive edge. But I think that's honestly where this industry is probably going.
So you think there's going to be a new Xbox console as part of that spring hardware launch that we keep hearing about with Redstone 2?
So the details, to be honest, are very sketchy and thin. Now they come from a very good place. And if Kotaku, I actually didn't mention really much of this on mine because I only had kind of half the story, and Kotaku apparently had the actual documents. They're saying that it is coming in the spring, which would align to that massive hardware refresh.
Right.
So I will be curious to see if it's actually integrated into that release. Like, they go up on stage and announce all this stuff, or if it's still going to come at E3 like they traditionally do with their consoles.
Aren't some people reporting two different Xbox devices coming, right? Like one thing that's codenamed Scorpio, that's like the big refresh.
I mean, technically there are 4, right? The 2 streaming devices, the mini Xbox, the kind of cost-reduced Xbox, smaller, whatever, and then a next-gen Xbox,
right?
Yep.
Which would probably be the VR-capable, Sony PS4K competitor.
Which you would think they would want to launch at holiday and not in spring, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of the things they announce. I mean, that's what they did with Xbox One. Remember, they announced it in June, around that time frame, and then it didn't land until October-ish. So that, I don't know. It's
I'd rather have them get this one right than be neck and neck, at this point.
And I think you guys know just as well as I do that this is not the Microsoft of 5 to 10 years ago. They're looking at every single business model they have, like Windows Phone, and they're turning them over, and they're trying to see how do we differentiate ourselves and not just run with the status quo. And I think that's what we're starting to finally see in the Xbox is we see cross-platform gaming is now a reality. That just went live, I think, this week with Rocket League. So the thing is, Microsoft owns the PC gaming market. Granted, there's Steam, and Steam has the de facto platform, but it's still on a Windows PC. And from what I understood is they want to bring these PC gamers and their Xbox gamers and bring them closer together so that they have one massive ecosystem of gamers that they can then pitch to.
No, I people freak out about this kind of stuff. It's funny how gamers are no better than exchange admins in the sense that it's like, wait, everything's changing. What's going on? You know, it's funny. Like, no, consoles don't do this. You don't rev a console midstream. You don't. You know, it's like, guys, things have been like this for 30 years. Why can't they change? You know, we'll see. I'm really curious to see what they do announce at E3, which is coming up, right?
It's just a couple of weeks off. Yeah,
2 weeks.
June
13th,
13th, I believe, around then.
Okay, so maybe 3 weeks.
And if you watched some of the Xbox executives on Twitter today, none of them were denying everything. They were all just saying, "We can't wait to tell our story." Usually, like if somebody comes up with something, you guys know that if it's garbage, they'll come out and say no, like that's not real.
I just hope they tell another story about a submarine.
No, he's gone. He's gone.
But what if I wanted to play this on a submarine, Brad? Would that work?
Oh boy.
Always going somewhere deep, Paul.
So if I have a day one Xbox One, is there any reason that I would covet any of this new stuff? Is it faster, better, smarter?
So one of the things that is potentially coming is 4K. Now, it's not going to be 4K gaming. It's going to be 4K video playback.
Right.
Would potentially be one of the reasons why you would want to upgrade.
If I had a newer TV, I might want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were a little surprised they didn't have 4K support.
Yeah, and I can't see them supporting 4K gaming. That's a really huge shift for them and for the console in general.
I don't think that would never be possible on a console, not current gen hardware. I just don't see that.
Yeah.
So Xbox 4K.
And we can't even do 1080p gaming on the Xbox.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like,
gotta set our sights here.
That's what I meant, actually, because there wasn't 4K when the Xbox One came out. The complaint was you couldn't do 1080p gaming. But we're not talking 4K gaming. Are we talking 1080p gaming?
I would imagine so, but I don't know how that's a little bit beyond my knowledge of how that would work with prior games. I would imagine it would work fine.
Right.
But they don't want to, I don't think they want to drive a stake between those who bought an Xbox One.
I don't think you could fix shipped games unless they updated them, right? I mean, they
right.
It's not like they're, I don't want to say this if this is wrong. I don't believe, I mean, they must be written to display at specific resolutions for specific reasons, right? They don't output at 1080p and then get down-resed by the console.
Right.
It's a performance thing.
To come somebody's question on Twitter, they asked, does this mean that the Xbox One is going to be outdated? And I don't believe that in any way. I think the games and everything
only
will
if you
still
had a 4K
be fine.
TV and you wanted to watch 4K video.
Right.
Like.
This is just Microsoft refreshes their hardware all the time. Right. They did it several times with the 360. So this isn't outside.
But, I mean, well, the difference is that the first gen Xbox 360 was updated to 1080p support, and those games would play. This time, it seems like we're going to get, there's the possibility of games that would support dual resolutions, for lack of a better term, where if you had a first gen Xbox One, it would run at whatever it is, 960p, whatever. And if you had the newer 4K version, maybe that one runs at 1080p. And maybe that's something that, you know, the games would both work. You don't have to get a special game. It's not a different game. It's not like the Sega thing where they did the CD add-on. It's the same game, but it would work a little differently depending on which version of the console you had, which I think is an absolutely fine thing to do. And this is one of the things people freak out about with consoles. You can't do that because it's never been done. Well, of course you can do it. We do that with PC games all the time. Every PC game that you buy supports, 117 different combinations of resolutions and graphical effects and all kinds of other stuff. It's still a console. It could be automatic, It's going
to be an interesting show, that is for sure. And we'll see what else Microsoft is. I mean, there's going to be games galore, but we'll see what else Microsoft has been able to keep out of the prying eyes of myself and many others around the web.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I don't want to keep you from your vacation.
I do.
Yes. Paul, you're going to get a lot of late night texts.
Very interesting.
It will be like you never left.
Oh, that's sweet. Brad Sams, Thurrott.com and Petri.com, and where are you going on vacation?
I'm headed down to the Gulf Shores. Gonna go get some beach time.
Nice.
Get some, taking the kid, taking the wife.
Good.
And
good.
going to disconnect, although I don't truly ever fully disconnect, but get away from the keyboard for a little bit.
Oh, come on. He'll be at BD Sam's if you want to bug him.
For sure. For sure. Thanks, Leo.
And his cell phone number is...
Yep. Thank you, Paul.
Okay. We're going to pop you out while we do that. I'm going to do a commercial, and we'll talk soon again. Have a great trip, Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks for the scoop. It's a scoop. Our show today brought to you by Veridesk. We're so excited because, like Pied Piper, we're getting all Veridesks in our new studio. If you like us here at Windows Weekly, I bet it's because you spend a lot of time sitting at the old computer. Whether you're keeping your company's network secure, you're coding, you're editing video, maybe just, I don't know, playing Angry Birds, all that time sitting at your desk adds up. We know being sedentary is not good. Research from the Mayo Clinic shows that sitting puts you at a greater risk of health problems, I should say, including obesity, increased blood pressure, and high blood sugar. Wait a minute. I have all three of those. That's why I want to get a Veridesk. That's why we're getting Veridesks throughout the whole new studio. Veridesk offers a variety of height-adjustable desks that you easily switch between sitting and standing. And one of the nice things about Veridesk is you don't have to get rid of your old desk. Veridesk.com. There's the website. And you'll see what's so cool is no assembly required. These come in the box. You just take it out of the box. You put it on your desk. And suddenly, with one hand, one finger, you can raise the Veridesk. Spring-loaded boost mechanism. That means your monitors and your keyboards can sit on there and not weigh it down. It's very stable. It has 11 different height settings. That's awesome. Of course, they also have standalone Veridesks. They have all different kinds of stuff, and they have special monitor mounts, too, if you want to do that. But I just love the Veridesks. And the nice thing is you can sit or stand. It's not like just a high desk. It's a desk that is adjustable. So today you want to sit, no problem. Tomorrow you want to stand, no problem. And because it goes on top of your desk, it starts as little as $175 with free shipping in the continental United States. Veridesk was named one of the 5 best standing desks by Lifehacker. It's been featured on Gear Patrol and Product Hunt. And you probably saw it. I mentioned Pied Piper. You might have seen it. If you watched Silicon Valley this season, you know those nice new Pied Piper offices they had briefly? They had Veridesks throughout. We got one Veridesk, and now the staff fights at it. We got the Pro Plus 36 in the brick house. So that was our test bed, and everybody wanted it. So we said, all right, Veridesks for everyone in the new studios. We're really excited about that. Veridesk.com, if you want to learn more, you could check out their wide range of height-adjustable desks for your desk, for your cubicle. No boss approval needed because you just sits it right on your existing desk. So they could do that. No problem at all. I'm not good at Windows, sorry. Got all sorts of things popping up. Veridesk.com. Make sure you tell them, hey, I heard about it on Twit. And thank you for helping them with the new brick house. Keeping Leo fit. Veridesk.com. We thank them for their support. Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott. Mary Jo Foley. Let me push a few buttons here. I have to figure it out.
That's what I do every day, Leo.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. There we go. It's all working perfectly. All right, so all the good news is over.
Yep.
All right, Mary Jo, bring us
it's time
down.
for the bad news.
All right, guys.
Who wants to start?
I'll start. Late last night, Microsoft announced, well, actually early this morning, East Coast time, they announced they're cutting 1,850 more jobs in the Windows Phone business, specific to phone hardware. Most of those are in Finland and connected with the manufacturing of Lumia devices. It's hard to put any kind of positive spin on this, pretty much. It's just Microsoft doing what they have warned on their various analyst calls that they were going to do, which is continue to trim expenses around Windows Phone because they're not selling any of them.
They're taking a big write-down, too, right? $950 million?
Yeah, $950 million impairment charge, which includes severance of those employees.
So this follows on the heels of last week selling off the feature phones to Foxconn.
Right, and they cut 4,500 jobs as part of that. They reassigned those people. So, yeah, there's pretty much almost no one left, I believe, who came over with the Nokia acquisition. There's probably some people who are working on camera-related stuff, probably some people who are affiliated with some of the patents that Microsoft bought when they got that handset business. But otherwise, all the people pretty much associated with manufacturing phones are gone now.
Mission accomplished.
So this is Microsoft saying we're out of the Lumia phone business, basically. Although they did not say they're out of the phone hardware business, believe it or not. Terry Myerson also issued an email to everybody working at Microsoft that said, we're scaling back, but we're not out. So he didn't say, here comes Surface Phone, but he did not say Microsoft is getting out of the phone hardware business. So
also, in some ways, I think the big news here is the I don't know how else to say this, the sort of ever dwindling focus of this hardware business. Last July when they announced the massive layoffs and the $7.5 billion write-down and their new strategy, one of the things that Satya Nadella communicated was that they were going to focus on 3 customer segments: businesses, enthusiasts, and the value phone market. And they released phones that addressed each of those markets later in 2015 and then earlier this year. The 950 and 950 XL were aimed at enthusiasts. The 550 was aimed at the value phone market, and the 650 was aimed at businesses. Although the 650, curiously, is a beautiful phone, actually, but it doesn't support Continuum or Windows Hello, which I thought was kind of a strange design choice. But they are now stripping that down to one customer segment, and that customer segment, not surprisingly perhaps, is businesses. And I actually think that makes a lot of sense. Although I think I noted this in a post this morning, it's somewhat ironic that when they went out of the gate with Windows Phone back in 2010, they ignored the business market, right? They were going very much after the Apple, iPhone, and the consumer market. And they really had a hard time catching up. I mean, they have been behind on things like mobile device management policies and so forth ever since. I mean, it's really kind of a strange deal. But when you look at what HP is doing with that NVX3 Windows Phone that's coming out this summer, and you think about, what might a Surface Phone be like if they do make such a thing, it would probably be something like that. It would probably be Continuum focused. That's a very business-oriented feature. I guess it makes sense. And, for Windows Phone fans, I would just say, look, it's the same story as last year. There's the silver lining here is they're sticking with it. They'll continue to upgrade Windows 10 Mobile, of course. That will work on tablets as well as phones. And just because they make something for a business customer doesn't mean that you as an individual won't be able to buy it. And so if you do have a desire to buy whatever phone it is they might come out with, you will be able to do so. And
although I wonder how, right? Because
the
HP phone isn't going to be sold at retail as far as we know, right?
But they told me
sold by the HP sales team into enterprises.
But I think they literally said HP.com would sell them. It's not going to be easy, right? I mean, you can't do. Well, no, I mean. When you buy a phone from the Microsoft store today, for example, you can buy it outright. You can buy an unlocked version. You could buy it through a carrier, and you could get on one like an AT&T Next type plan where you're paying so much a month or whatever it is. That stuff's all available right now. You can go look it up. I think these new devices aren't going to be like that. I think the primary sell-through is going to be to businesses, obviously. So it's going to be an enterprise agreement type thing. But you could still buy one. And I think what that's going to mean is you buy it outright. You're going to have to pay full price, whatever it is, for this unlocked device of indeterminate origin. I guess we'll see.
Right. So we still don't think there will be any new Microsoft phones until next spring at the earliest. We still think that date is correct, that will be part of the whole big hardware launch when they talk about Redstone 2, when they come out with other new Surface devices. We're hearing still that that's the target for when this will happen. So the rest of this year, there aren't going to be any more Microsoft phones. That's it. The
Okay.
end.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think one really interesting little kind of inside baseball piece on this post is if you look at Terry Myerson's email that he sent out to all employees today.
And all press.
And
By
the
way,
press.
I mean, it wasn't leaked,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they gave it to
Right.
us.
They
so
gave them to us.
Interesting.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. But I thought it was very interesting what he attributed the failure of this business to. And what he said was, we have not always had the alignment needed across the company to make an impact. That's a very thinly veiled reference to all the problems between the Windows division and the Windows Phone division dating back to Windows 8, basically.
But Mary Jo, I learned on Twitter this week from some of the people who were involved in that fiasco that never happened.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I love
heard
the
that
sort
too.
of history rewriting in the making, you know. You recall the org chart cartoon with all the guns pointing to each other, which was from this era that, you know, the different parts of Microsoft didn't work together. And it's funny because it's true.
Yeah,
you know, that was the problem. Yeah, it is. It's interesting that he called it out.
Yep. And he linked to a story that Peter Bright wrote in Ars Technica, which is the whole history of how Microsoft came along with the one core strategy and the one core mission. And even though Peter Bright did not link in that article to the problems that happened around the Windows 8 to Windows Phone, Windows 8 team kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not hate. Like
Bathification.
Yeah. He didn't actually go that deep in that article to really lay that out, but that is also what he was discussing in the One Core article. There's been a lot of talk on Twitter, like you said this week, about that whole who screwed up kind of thing.
Yep.
A lot of blame gaming.
Yes.
Fingers.
Well, look, I mean, people had their own kind of hubris going on, and they had their own ambitions, and I'm sure they also had their own belief that they were doing the right thing and that they were going to push Microsoft and its customers into the 21st century, kicking and screaming if they had to. But the fact remains, you know, we've told this story before. I mean, one of the big things that I considered to be a real disaster of that era was that, you know, the Windows team went to the Windows Phone team and said, we need your user experience stuff, we need your guidelines, we need all this stuff. And they took it and they left and they never talked to them again. And they just made a system that was sort of like Windows Phone graphically and from a user experience standpoint. It was, you know, Windows 8 was and Windows RT were sort of like Windows Phone. Instead of working on these things in concert, which is, of course, is what they're doing now, years too late. Different team of people, obviously. And maybe some irony, too, to the fact that Terry Myerson and his crew, who I find to be very credible, came up out of Windows Phone.
I know.
Right?
That's,
I mean, so they
it's
kind of...
It's going to be so hard for him to write that email because it's basically his team, right?
But isn't it not the case
screwed.
that Nadella never wanted to acquire Nokia? Wasn't he an opponent?
Yeah, but you know...
As far as we know.
Right.
But you know what? It's really important for everyone to remember something because there is a lot of commingling here of these things. There's something called Windows, you know, there are Windows phones. There's this Windows Phone platform. There's the OS, which is Windows 10 Mobile. There's Lumia, which is the Microsoft line of hardware that used to be owned by Nokia. And these things are not, they're all related, obviously, but they're different, right, as well. And, you know, Microsoft, when they say, they didn't come out and actually say, we are not making any more Lumias. We sort of strongly suspect this to be the case. We know for a fact that they're working on something that will be Surface something if it ever comes out and will be a phone. And so we you know, you kind of put the dots together or whatever. But, you know, they're different things. And so, you know, a lot of people, every time something bad like this happens, you know, that people on Twitter kind of circle the wagons and, you know, I'm still a proud Windows Phone user and blah, blah, blah. And they'll take Windows 10 Mobile from my dead hand, you know, blah, blah, blah. No one's threatening Windows 10 Mobile. I mean, you know, Windows 10 Mobile is part of Windows 10. It's, Mary Jo had a story this week about how they're going to be putting it on bigger devices, for one thing, which is actually also interesting.
I know, that's really interesting. So
and that platform continues.
Yeah, Microsoft, I guess this was there, but we didn't notice it before now. They've upped the
Yeah.
allowable device screen size for anything running Windows 10 mobile to 9 inches. It was 8 before.
Right.
I asked them when that took effect, and it sounded like it was there, but maybe we didn't notice it, or maybe it wasn't published or official.
It's like you put something in MSD and documentation and nobody knows it because
I know, right?
So, who knows how these things originate? But somebody said, "Hey, look, they changed the minimum hardware requirements in the anniversary update. It appears for phone and for PC. 1 gigabyte on phone, 2 gigabytes on PC is a minimum. That becomes a story, And then a little while later, someone says, "Hey, look, they upped the resolution capabilities on Windows 10. There's a story right there too, And then the next day, it's like this thing. Actually, you can have 9-inch screens. I mean, it's almost like every day. It's almost like they're sliding in like a new detail to this documentation every day. I
think it might have been connected with them doing WinHEC in China, and that is because that was recent, and maybe that's when they published these specs or made them more readily available to OEMs. I'm not sure.
Right. Yep. I think you're right.
The part I'm more interested in almost than the screen size, and I can't get an answer on this, is whether Windows 10 Mobile Anniversary will work on Intel chips and ARM chips.
Right.
Because when they actually built Windows 10 Mobile, they built it to run mostly on ARM, but they said it could run on small tablets that were Intel-based.
Yep.
But now
such a
that
thing has never appeared, to my knowledge.
Right, and Intel kind of fell apart in terms of its mobile strategy. I mean, I think they're still going to have some mobile processors in the future, so I'm curious if Windows 10 Mobile will support those in the future.
But I mean, 2 years ago, whatever, what would we have called a 9-inch, let's say, Surface-branded device running on the ARM platform? I mean, this is a Surface RT, right?
Oh, right, true.
But it's not now. I mean, today, of course, it's running Windows 10 Mobile. That's really interesting. I mean, it's the Windows RT vision in a way, but applied to the OS maybe that it should have always been, because that thing was sitting there ready to go, was mature, and had lots of apps and games at the time,
right.
Comparatively speaking. Still does, really compared to big Windows from a, UWP standpoint or modern app standpoint.
Yeah. Very interesting. I'm really, a lot of people thought Surface Phone for sure would be Intel-based. People were really adamant about this, but I never actually had heard it would be. I always had heard ARM-based.
This was one of those what-if things because it's so plausible and logical. Like I think we all, we never presented it as, oh no, this is happening. I mean, but it's like, think about it. They just launched this feature called Continuum. It allows you to, turn your phone into a PC. What if that phone was Intel? Then it literally would be a PC. I mean, you can kind of see how this makes sense. The part that doesn't make sense.
Intel killed their
phone because Intel's chipsets were never worked, and that's why, by the way, HP went with ARM because of course that was the first thing they did was we'll make an Intel phone, and those guys told me that the Intel chipsets were years away from being efficient enough to use on as a phone. And Intel, by the way, must have agreed because they just killed it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could use one of the Atom processors that is still alive, but
I guess
they're not good for low power environments.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. But 9-inch, so maybe it's not maybe a Surface phone is a Surface tablet or something. Maybe
exactly.
Yeah. Well, right.
I call it a Surface mobile device.
Yeah,
that's what I've been calling it now.
I really like that you use that name because when you hear that, just getting the phone out of the name helps a little bit because there are a lot of people who are pining a little bit for that Surface Mini that almost happened but didn't happen. It sort of recasts it. Yeah.
That's his first act.
Wow. It's like the opposite of an outgoing president who pardons things.
Yeah, he unpardoned.
Unpardons.
Unpardoned the
Surface
Mini. Do you think, though, I mean, the reason I brought up Nadella in the first place is maybe his kind of a lukewarm support from the CEO. I mean, you don't need to point fingers. The real problem was they were too late, and iOS and Android had owned the market, and that was it. It was done.
Yeah.
That's all you really have to say. But it couldn't have helped that the CEO was lukewarm about the category.
Sure.
I think he was lukewarm because he realized they couldn't really compete with Apple and Google and all the other Android vendors.
So what are we spending money on here?
Right. Why are we buying this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew it was too late already.
And honestly, I mean, I don't know that this is an area that Mary Jo or I have any particular expertise in, but there's a financial element to this story that I certainly don't understand fully. But one of the reasons why what happened last year happened right at their end of their fiscal year, one of the reasons they're talking about this now and implementing this stuff now has to do with the financial kind of backlash that occurs in the wake of such things. There's as a company, Microsoft is investing in certain things and they expect some sort of return, and calling the Nokia purchase a complete loss almost doesn't even begin to describe what a financial disaster that was, because they didn't just lose whatever they handed Nokia in cash. They've been hemorrhaging billions of dollars ever since as well, in various other losses. And every time they do this thing where they lay off people and they take restructuring charges, there are costs associated with those people's, pensions and the restructuring itself and so forth. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, at some point, this becomes an incredibly expensive financial drain to keep supporting this thing that's never going to be successful, like ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what happened to Microsoft stock today, it kind of tells you why they did this.
It went up, right? A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Analysts love that they did this.
Yeah.
I mean,
if they could just kill
horrible.
Windows Phone every week, their stock would do wonderfully.
I mean, layoffs aren't fun, but and definitely not fun.
No.
But people who are watching Microsoft's business said, "Hey, you got to just cut it because you're just continuously losing money. There's no way you're going to come back from this."
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, well, we got the bad news out of the way, thank goodness.
Yes.
So,
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that, Leo.
you want to take it, Paul?
This is
Because
almost-
I'm not a Windows hater. I just want to say you may be, but I'm a Windows hater.
I may be, yeah. No, I actually, I think that's the tragedy of the story.
I'm
because
so
Windows
with you
10
on what you wrote. I thought that was
is so good.
Yeah.
And I've sort of used this word undermine over time, to describe that these get Windows 10 advertisements, this weird stuff that Microsoft's doing to try to, not to convince, but to literally fool people into upgrading to Windows 10 by mistake, is the wrong way to treat customers. I think last week I talked about Signature PC and how the PC industry is undermining this relationship they have with their customers, and that they're harming this relationship. And so you have a short-term gain, but you're ruining the relationship long-term, and it's just not smart. And they've been escalating this. Everyone listening to this knows we've talked about this a lot. But then they did something really underhanded. And again, like so many things, you don't almost understand what's going on. It doesn't seem possible. I think, Leo, I also linked to the wrong story on that one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think I linked to the wrong story.
Oh.
So if you go to my homepage and scroll down.
Yeah, because I want I want to get the image.
Yeah. Sorry, the image is the Steve Gibson Never 10 app. It's the Upgrade 8 article.
Yeah.
So here's how the Get Windows 10 thing works today. If you have Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, and you're fully up to date, as you would be, right? Microsoft a few months back moved the Windows 10 upgrade into the recommended path inside a Windows Update, meaning that it would automatically trigger the update. When that thing is automatically triggered, you get a dialog box. It says, hey, we've scheduled the update. You can click this button to OK this, or there's a cancel link and you can go in and cancel it. Now, if you cancel it, you're not canceling it forever, right? It's still in the recommended Windows Update thing, so it's going to be rescheduled. All you're doing is putting it off for some amount of time, and you don't know what that time is. It will come up again, but you at least can cancel it. Until last week, however, if you click the close window box, which is that red X up in the corner of every window in Windows since, Windows 95, and there was a version in Windows 3, of course, and it's been in Windows forever, that would also cancel it. But they made a little silent change. And now when you click the close window box, you have accepted it. And so you're going to wake up the next morning or whenever the schedule is, and you will have upgraded to Windows 10, whether you wanted to or not.
So we've complained before because, this is the box you get. Windows 10 is a recommended update for this PC based on your Windows Update settings. You've made it recommended. You turn on automatic recommended. It's scheduled upgrade, and there's the date and time. And there are 2 boxes. Okay. And where you would normally see cancel, upgrade now. So that's bad enough. But we've always said, well, you know, and this is still works. You can click here to change upgrade schedule or cancel schedule upgrade. Or,
and by the way, a week ago or 10 days ago, whatever it was, I wrote an article complimenting them for this. Because
I did too.
They finally had a way to cancel. And I thought, well, look at those guys. They're listening.
But now,
they've come roaring back.
Your temptation, and you've been trained for many years using Windows, you might not see the click here, or you might not, or you might just say, well, I'll just click the X.
Close it.
I'll just close this window because...
By the way, if you close an application window in Windows or any other operating system, and this action may trigger some other action, you usually get a little dialog box that says, hey, by the way, by clicking this, you're saying that you want to do this. Is this true? Yes or no?
But let me say something in their defense.
Okay.
Because really, this is a box telling you that, just warning you that, you know, you have recommended updates turned on. Windows 10 is now a recommended update. We're going to do this on Sunday at 11 p.m. Closing the box is just closing the alert. It wouldn't necessarily cancel. In fact, it shouldn't cancel. It should. I know it used to. That was probably a mistake because really in the kind of the semiotics of dialog boxes,
Leo,
you're just acknowledging the
support of Microsoft.
you're just acknowledging the receipt of this message. You're saying, yeah, I got it. Okay. So there is a different process because this is already scheduled.
I think the issue I have with this primarily is that it does something different and they didn't mention it.
They changed it.
And there's absolutely no reason when you click that button for it not to pop up a dialog and say, are you sure? Because this is going to install unless you say cancel.
I think they should do that, but in their defense, they're geeks and they're saying, no, we're just alerting you. It's already done. If you want to cancel, that's a different process. You're just closing the box that told you about it.
Okay.
Before, a lot of people didn't realize the way to cancel was to hit the red X. Like some people didn't even realize.
Well, it shouldn't
do
be.
that.
Frankly, it shouldn't have been.
Before, right?
I know.
Before they didn't give you an option to cancel except to hit the red.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. So there wasn't a click here to change upgrade schedule.
Oh.
No, they added that, and that's why at one point I wrote an article. I was like, well, good for them. They're listening to feedback, you know. And you know, aren't I innocent and stupid? So they
okay, I get it now. All right.
Yeah.
So really, though, their mistake was before because that red X doesn't make sense. They should have always had, and I would like to see it in bigger letters. Oh, and if you don't want this to happen, please click here.
Which has been the central argument against this thing all along. If there's any good news here, it's that this nightmare will soon be over, right? July 29th is going to happen, and you know, geez, I mean, hopefully this just goes away. But
we still don't know.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
We still don't know. We know the Get Windows 10 app is going to phase out starting July 29th. What we don't know is Microsoft going to continue to mark this as a recommended update.
But
every time I ask them
that would be weird because you'd have to pay for it.
Every time I ask them, they say no.
They
say no comment.
What?
Hey, we've upgraded your PC to Windows 10. Here's now you can pay. I mean, you can't. That's crazy.
I know, it's crazy, right? It seems like they should just say yes. Of course, we're also going to no longer make it a recommended update, but they won't say that.
In the sense that we all have our limits. If such a crazy thing were to ever happen, that's the day I give up. I can't. This is insanity. That is next level crazy. Like that had better not happen. You can't. That's $120.
I know.
You can't.
Or
they don't have your credit card anyway. I mean, that's not. Yeah.
They don't.
No, but I mean, they could just.
They could just say if we make it a recommended update, you kind of have a loophole to get it for free. Still.
I bet you that's what it is. Okay. I totally bet you that's what they do. Because they still want to incent people, as we spoke of a couple of weeks ago. They're not losing money by giving it away for free anyway.
Allow me to reiterate the tip that I had from a couple of months ago, which is that Steve Gibson has made this wonderful and free third-party utility called Never 10, and it works, and it's super easy to use.
Mary Jo has used it and vouches for it.
I have
used it as well.
Yeah. If you want to stay, and You know what? I think it's important to say that we like Windows 10. I know some of us anyway. 2 out of 3 of us.
No, I like it on my laptop a lot.
Okay.
I just I don't need it on my desktop.
But we also have to acknowledge there's plenty of people who have perfectly good reasons, and even if for not upgrading, and even if they didn't have perfectly good reasons, they have the right not to upgrade.
I know.
Exactly.
And they should not be tricked or forced into it. And while I don't think this is actually an intentionally deceptive practice on Microsoft's part.
Oh, I do.
I kind of do too.
Oh, okay.
No, I do.
Isn't that funny? I'm defending them. I don't know how this happened.
And they wrote me they gave me a statement. I didn't ask for one. And I said, we understand your, how did she say it? Dissatisfaction, disgruntled, whatever she said.
Your gruntlement.
And here's the statement. And it really just kind of explains exactly what we just said. Like that, yeah, we did do this. And yikes.
Yeah.
It's a little disheartening.
Yeah, the only good thing is I think a lot of normal people still don't realize that you can click that red X.
My
I
wife
think they just
fell for
don't
this,
see
by
it.
the way. Her computer was upgraded.
Wait a minute,
to
there's a
Windows 10.
red X? Where's that?
No, I mean the thing we were talking about that now if you click on the red X, it
It's
actually
white now.
schedules the upgrade. Oh,
Well, no,
white,
that's this screenshot you're looking at. It's actually it
is
would
red?
normally be.
Okay.
still red,
Yeah,
I think.
But I think that's a misunderstanding of what that dialog box is telling you. What I would ask Microsoft to do, and what they really, Chris, I know you're listening. What you really should do is have in big letters.
That exercise machine.
If this isn't something you want, you can click here to change that schedule. But it's already been scheduled. All that is an alert saying, hey, it's already been scheduled, and that's why it says your real choice is: do you want to, instead of waiting till tonight, you want to do it right now? That's your real choice. And so they do need to put it somewhere, because this is your real point, and I think it's very well taken, is Windows 10 is great, but people are having, as a result of this, a very negative reaction. And so this tarnishes the reputation not only of Windows 10, but of Microsoft. And that's something they need to take seriously.
And by the way, they clearly understand psychology because they've done this. But imagine the psychology of somebody who willfully upgraded to Windows 10. And they run into a couple of little problems. But because they chose this thing, because they wanted certain features or whatever it was, they'd probably be a little less inclined to be worried about little problems, and they would probably try to solve those problems. But now imagine the psychology of a person who was upgraded against their will.
Forced.
And they start to have little problems.
Now they hit the roof. Yeah.
This is a conspiracy.
You made me do this, and it screwed me up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's really, really not smart.
And I should point out, I have, the radio show I do has 1 million listeners every weekend, and not an hour goes by that somebody doesn't call up and say, I was upgraded involuntarily, and this bad thing happened. What do I do now? So,
and I love that this bad thing is now Windows 10. Congratulations.
That's a mistake.
Because for all of the FUD, for all of the lies about all of the supposed privacy baloney and blah, 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 the worst thing about Windows 10 is this.
Yeah, that's right.
And they did it to themselves.
That's right.
It's really frustrating.
When you talk to them about it, it's almost like a paternalistic intent on their part. They're like, we're doing what's good for customers. We're doing what's right for customers. And I always say back, I think customers are the ones who have the choice of doing what's right for themselves.
Right.
You shouldn't be telling people it's good for you to upgrade to Windows 10. And so we're going to do it for you.
They should bring back Clippy. Clippy could say, hey, it looks like you're trying to upgrade to Windows 10. Do you want me to get that thing going for you? And you could be like, no. And then he'll say, okay, let's install Windows 10.
I hear you, but really, let's install Windows 10.
No, it's like, no? Okay. No, so when you wake up tomorrow, you'll have Windows 10.
I've seen people say on Twitter saying, Microsoft should have just called this Windows 7 Service Pack 2. And they should have just
no one would have complained.
Get it.
You know what? You're right.
They didn't. Yep. And they made a choice not to do that, in part, I believe, because they didn't want to extend the time of support. Windows 7 Service Pack 1 is still under support until 2020. If they had made this service, that would have pushed that date out further. And I think they don't want that. They want a fresh start with Windows as a service. They don't want people thinking in the old way with Windows 7. And I think that's why they did not call this Service Pack 2.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, last week we talked about the convenience update for Windows 7. So this past weekend, I ruined my entire life by doing nothing other than upgrading to Windows 7 and then upgrading to all of the updates that are available for Windows 7. And oh my God, what is wrong with Windows 7? Oh my God. How do people put up with this?
Oh my God.
No,
Oh
seriously,
my God.
I spent.
I saw you say something in that article that made me laugh. You said no self-respecting technologist would still be running Windows 7.
No, not technologist. And by the way, that was okay. Sorry, you mentioned that. That was not a dig at you, by the way.
No, I didn't take it as a personal dig. I said to you, I
self-respecting
laughed.
technology enthusiast.
Enthusiast.
And what I meant by that is because those people are always on the next thing,
right?
You know.
Yeah.
So this is more like.
Well, and let's be honest. How old is Windows 10? It's more than 10 years old.
It's 9.
I mean, 7.
Windows 7. I think it's 9 years old.
9 years old.
Yeah. So. I mean, I knew that. I knew this, right? I mean, we all know because there was only one service pack for Windows 10 that. The base ISO I have for Windows 7 is with Service Pack 1. I've installed Windows 7 before many times, obviously. There are hundreds and hundreds of updates that need to be installed. And last week they announced this convenience roll-up, which is sort of like Service Pack 2, which is a really neat way to collect literally several hundred updates into a single package. I did verify that part of the install goes by very quick. The problem is, there's 2 problems, though. Windows updating is completely broken. And actually, I noticed today, Mary Jo has a story, an article about this, and you can expand on this in a bit.
That's going to be my enterprise pick.
Okay,
so I'll tell you
so that she can go into that a little bit later. But the Windows updating stack is completely broken, and so there are huge periods of time, and by huge periods of time, I mean like several hours, where Windows Update says it's checking for updates and does nothing. It does nothing, and even with the convenience roll-up, which you can install offline, so to speak, meaning you download the thing, install it. You're not connected to the internet while you're doing it. When that thing's done and you still go through the checking for updates, never does anything. Hours go by. There are still 60 somewhat updates to install.
Yeah.
Over multiple reboots, over multiple attempts of checking for updates where it doesn't do anything. I spent literally all day Saturday just working on this last weekend. I never want to see Windows 7 again.
I also don't think they want to make this too nice or too easy.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right?
That's true too. That's another way.
Because if it's really easy, it's like, well, I'm just going to stay on Windows 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can just picture my wife gathering the children together, putting them in the station wagon, and driving away from the house because Daddy needs some me time.
Hearing the screams as they drive down.
I'm screaming so loud I'm not making any sound. The dogs and looking around like, what's going on? Yeah.
By the way, the chat room tells me July 22nd, 2009, so it's 7 years old. It's not that old. I thought it was older than that. I guess it's not that old, really.
2009, yeah. But remember, too, though, that Windows 7 dates back really to the time of Windows Vista and is in many ways itself a Windows Vista service. It was
a service pack to Vista. That's true, yeah.
Or it's, this is not modern technology, which, by the way, you can tell by just trying to update it. It's hilarious. Or it would be hilarious if you didn't want to murder somebody. It's really frustrating.
You know what's so cool is on Linux, you just type sudo apt-get upgrade, and it just does it all, and you don't even have to reboot. It just
honestly, Leo, if we were stuck with Windows 7 today,
Linux would be a good choice. Yeah,
it would be. Yeah.
I'm loving it. Anyway, I'm just teasing you. I guess let's take a break and come back with more. Paul,
I'm getting mad just thinking about this.
Mary Jo,
like how terrible that was.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little yoga while you're doing
that. And that was with the convenience.
Yeah, both of them were terrible.
Convenience update. Imagine the inconvenience possible.
It's literally more convenient.
Yeah.
It is literally not convenient.
Okay, hold on for the enterprise pick, guys.
Okay.
I'm going to make your life better.
Mary Jo does have some information I think might be useful for people.
I should point out, Mary Jo, you're in Seattle, right?
I am.
Actually, you're in Redmond.
Right now, Seattle.
Okay, because there's a massive power blackout going in Seattle.
I know.
Right now.
I just got a note from someone. Are you affected by the power outage? And I said no.
Yeah, you might be. So if Paul is all alone by himself when we come back from the ad, you'll know why. Mm-hmm. It is not Mary Jo and her resentment over being called a non-Windows.
A Luddite.
Yeah, lover or whatever it was. Enthusiast. It's too bad Brad left because he was saying before the show began how much he loved Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage, and he's I think that for a technologist, a tech enthusiast, or even just somebody who doesn't want to waste time, this is a really good thing to know about. When it's time to refi or buy a new home, quickenloans.com/windows. It's Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. And Rocket Mortgage is aptly named because it's whoosh, fast, it's easy, and most importantly for us geeks, it's online. If you've ever bought a house before, you know what a pain in the butt it is getting that mortgage, all the paperwork. And there's, last time we bought a house in the dark ages, a couple of years ago, we had to fax. They would send you. They would think they were faxing you stuff. You'd get a PDF, which you would then sign, and you would have to fax back to them. That was their authentication process. That's crazy. And there's still, most mortgage companies still do it that way. Not Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage is all online. You can send your bank statements, your pay stubs, just by clicking the mouse. You will get approved in minutes. And by the way, because it's online, they can give you a broader variety of custom mortgage solutions, so you get exactly what's right for your situation. This is taking the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. And I didn't know this, but he said this was great because they send you a box with the paperwork, and a notary comes to your house. You don't even have to leave your house when the final signing happens. It couldn't be easier. And you do the whole process on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. It is a quick online process. You don't have to get up from your couch. And I think Brad didn't have any pants on, so that's why he didn't want to get up from the couch. If you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, or, and they don't mention this, and I'm going to add this to their ads every time. If you're in the market for a home, at least here in California, it really is a seller's market. There are often several people competing for the same house. You can do yourself a huge favor by going right now to Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans and pre-qualifying, because then you go to the seller and he or she knows you're good for it. Makes a big difference. Puts you at the front of the line. So if you're about to go house hunting, go there too. QuickenLoans.com/windows. That's Rocket Mortgage, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. And I really shouldn't invoke Brad's name after he's left, but he said it. He said it.
Just don't say it 3 times in a row.
Especially saying he isn't wearing pants.
That was mean. But he is a blogger.
Yep.
He is.
I'm just saying.
He was clearly coming at us from a basement.
No, I'm teasing Brad. But it was nice. He did because we were setting up for the show, and he says, "Oh, you got Rocket Mortgage. Love those guys." So that's nice to know. Yeah. All right, moving right along here to mobile. You were tweeting, of course, as Google I/O's keynote happened. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's been going on with Chromebooks is, especially in education, where Windows was dominant, Chromebooks are coming up fast.
Yep.
Something like 21% of all the spend last year. And Google was happy to say...
That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
right?
of course, it totally
really
makes sense. It's
they're inexpensive, and they actually have really simple management.
They're simple.
Scheme.
It's easy to manage.
I've never understood iPads in education because they're fragile and expensive.
Yeah.
And as you can, whatever opinions people have about Chromebooks, I'm told from a couple weeks ago that some people have some opinions. It makes sense that they would be popular in education.
Sure.
That makes plenty of sense to me.
Sure. And now, actually, I don't think what Google did is going to make it more popular, probably less popular in education and business. But they have added.
You could probably
turn it
manage
off.
it.
Yeah, you could totally manage it and turn it off. But they are adding the Play Store to Chrome OS, and that means 1.5 million Android apps without modification.
Yeah.
That's where I'm most impressed.
The Android horde.
Yeah.
So I have my opinions about this. I'm curious what Mary Jo thinks about this.
Yeah.
We've never really talked about it.
We didn't really talk about this. The one thing that initially caught my eye when they were talking about this was they used a whole different method to get Android apps on Chrome.
They had tried 2 other ways of doing it, and they changed it. They said, nope, that's not going to work.
And so they're using container technology, which is kind of interesting and crazy.
Super slick. Yeah, super
slick.
It
automates it, right? I mean, the problem with the approach, if you go to the Chrome web app store today, you can see some Android apps in there. Duolingo is one I've installed, for example. I guess those things have to be handcrafted on a per app basis, and they can be kind of complicated. And I think the approach they're doing now basically just says, look, if you're in the Google Play Store, it just works.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's the reason for the change.
It's so sweet.
I think.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I wonder, do developers have to do anything at all?
Nope.
Nothing.
No.
The only issue will be apps that expect resources that are not typically available on Chromebooks, like the ability to make phone calls or a precise GPS and things like that.
Okay.
But that's the
There's
beauty
also,
of how they've done this. Google even knows which apps require that because they set this intent system up where an app, and Microsoft and Apple both do this too now, where an app says, this is what I'm going to need. And so they just don't even show you in the Chrome Play Store.
And isn't there extra work they can do to better integrate into Chrome OS if they want to? I thought there was some kind of optional set of stuff they could do.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the most likely thing would be layout issues. So now what's nice is these are windowed on Chrome OS, so it'll look like a phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Or a tablet.
Or a tablet.
Or whatever.
But if you want, and a lot of Android apps do not do tablet mode very well. So I think the only thing they mentioned is if you wanted to really optimize so that you'd work on all the platforms, you know, there are ways in material design to make your design more flexible.
Like auto layout.
Auto layout stuff. Yeah, and just assume you might be on a variety of different, not only portrait versus landscape, but resolutions. And
I'll tell you, one app that's really good on Android tablets is Word and Excel. And
Microsoft will be this. You know, in some ways, Microsoft might be celebrating this, right?
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Mary Jo. So, what do you?
I think that's interesting. You know, a lot of people I tweeted a little bit about the container stuff and Android on Chrome, and people were like, oh, great, now you're writing an Android blog, and I said, you know what? The reason I'm tweeting about this is because I know I'm tweeting about this because this competes with Microsoft's Universal Windows platform, and they're coming at this in a very different way.
I love that you have
Microsoft.
to explain this. Why don't they just rename Twitter to Bastard Covered Bastards with Bastard Killing?
Twitter is an outrage engine.
I mean, it really is crazy.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's important for people who are listening to this show to know this is the reason we're looking at this, because I think Microsoft even thought that the way Google was going to do this was emulation, and so they said, oh yeah, that's not going to work, that's not going to be a good solution.
They had Android runtime for Chrome, and it was a flop.
Right, so now they've done it in a different way that makes it, I think, a lot more compelling and interesting to developers.
And more secure, right? Because they're in a container. Also, and by the way, because it's a container, it's lightweight. You know, all the benefits of Docker or whatever container you like. Because it's lightweight, you don't have to load a whole OS. It runs essentially full speed. It's brilliant. And unlike UWP, it doesn't require developers to go back into the code and make sure that it all works on all platforms.
I mean, you don't have to do a lot, supposedly, if you're doing a UWP app and you want to make it work on other form factors.
But you have to do something. The point is, you don't have to do anything.
So the problem, though, and I think this is what makes Android so interesting, Android on Chromebook. How many UWP apps are there out there that are worth worrying about, right? That are compelling enough that people would say, I want to stick with Windows because this UWP app is so awesome. It's pretty small, right? How many Android apps are there that are worth something? A lot. Millions? Thousands, at least? I mean, there's a lot.
Including Microsoft Office.
Including Microsoft, although that's also on UWP.
And Sway and
maybe you guys know the answer to this. I was curious why this requires a Chromebook and not just the Chrome browser. Like, why can't they do it on that?
No, it does work in the Chrome browser. They said that.
It does work on the browser?
Works everywhere.
Yeah.
I just thought
it was weird
reporting
they
it
didn't
as
just say
on
Chrome OS, you know?
Right.
I may be wrong. I thought they said everywhere Chrome runs. I'm going to have to look that one up. I may be saying that wrong.
It seems like it should eventually be able to work on any supported Chrome device, whatever they call it.
Right.
I don't know. I think Chromebook is just kind of
like
a marketing
the shorthand
term.
way of talking about it.
Yeah. Laptop.
Yeah, so I think it's very, very interesting, and I am surprised this is the route they went, and I bet Microsoft is too. That's kind of my takeaway on that.
Yeah.
Google has smart engineers, and I think it's a fairly small team, and the team was fairly nimble because they abandoned ARC not so very long ago. That was their chosen path, and they talked about it I watched the video. It was very interesting. about why they decided it wasn't a flop. Flop's the wrong way to put it. It just wasn't technically a good solution.
Right.
So they found a better one.
You know, I think if you were to ask a typical Windows enthusiast, what's the problem with Chromebooks? I think the thing that they would say first is something along the lines of, well, it's not Windows, or it's like offline stuff or whatever. And I think there's sort of like these out-of-date kind of understandings of what's going on with Chrome OS or Chromebooks. Honestly, to me, the weakest part of Chrome OS is the App Store. There are some very good apps in there, actually. And there are enough good apps where you could say, like a web app kind of experience can be very, very good. Offline apps, all kinds of stuff. But when you this changes this story so dramatically, right? I mean, the Play Store, full of apps, many of which are very high quality, now able to run natively on a Chromebook, really changes the equation. And so this will be yet another episode of Windows Weekly where people can complain that we talked about Chromebooks.
Hey, you know what we talk about? We talk about tech. And it's not just Microsoft tech coming out of Redmond, but as it relates to Microsoft.
Well, of course, and that's something I think Mary Jo and I have always done. Where and I can't believe we have to explain. This,
we do on every show. No,
this
because
impacts Windows.
People assume that sometimes when you have a show called Windows Weekly or Mac Break Weekly, people think it's going to be a show for fans of Windows. And, you know, just like if we did 49ers Weekly, it'd be for fans of the 49ers, except this isn't football. This is something a little
But even if you did, you'd still be talking about a trade that involved another team.
Yeah.
Because that impacts your team.
Right. Right.
This is common sense, isn't it?
A lot of people are saying to me,
don't worry
a lot
about
of people
Twitter.
are saying it's Chromebook specific. It's tied to the hardware.
They're cagey on this.
Yeah.
They
Chromebox
did not want to
hardware is the same.
announce that it was on Chrome.
Yeah.
It's a container technology.
Right.
What does a Chromebook offer besides Chrome, the browser? A very stripped down Linux operating system. This is going to run anywhere. And they may not do it right away, but this is going to run anywhere Chrome runs.
I did read that when they talked about this on the Android apps on Chrome, they said it goes all the way down to the hardware abstraction level, which may be why it's hardware dependent. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just kind of guessing.
No, that's the point.
No?
They have a HAL, so it's hardware independent.
So then they don't.
Well,
You might need a new HAL for Windows and a new HAL for Mac OS.
They are in fact still restricting it to certain models, and I don't just mean as they roll it out. Like they've come up with a list and they've said, okay, it will work on these. I think this is
that's also
not a
unclear.
Right. I don't think it's a technical thing. I think it's more of a licensing / support thing.
Yeah, I think that's also
the first
unclear.
gen. Yeah,
there may not be enough RAM, or they may not be processor. Remember some of the older ones.
Yeah.
But and also the 3 models they mentioned are for the developer version that's coming out next month.
But
and there's a longer list. But I don't think that they closed the door on models that aren't on that list. I think it probably has to do more with processor and RAM. Again, I'm projecting.
Yeah.
But the key word here is containers. And Mary Jo, you know all about containers.
I know a little about them.
And they isolate you from the hardware.
Right.
You know, and they're cross-platform. You know, a Docker instance will run anywhere.
They have adorable little nougaty centers.
Yeah, they're tasty. They're tasty.
Yeah, remember
and by the way, since it runs on Intel as well as ARM Chromebooks.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right?
Too, right.
It is interesting.
Because how was Microsoft going to put Android apps on Windows? They had the whole bridge thing that they canceled in the end, but they also had a subsystem, right? They didn't use container technology. They used a subsystem inside Windows.
Remember, this was phone only, and it was an ARM hardware system, and so they basically were running on the hardware, right? There was no sense of containing them or whatever, isolating them, I guess. I don't think. I mean, it's gone. It's gone. But it's going to bug people that Microsoft had this basically.
I know. But Microsoft was kind of doing it. It was kind of emulation the way they were doing it. Right. And I think this is a different way of doing it. That people we have. It's hard. I don't even get it. But Docker folks are at great pains to say, no, this is not a VM. Right.
There's a significant difference. It's lighter weight. You don't carry the operating system, and the operating system calls along with you. Right. I don't know how it works because it's magic.
Yep.
It's from
Magic
You
of
know what?
software.
At
I'm a
first, when
muggle.
I also heard about the container stuff, my head immediately went to the fact that Windows 10 desktop is getting containers, and I was thinking, what? What if they could put Android apps in containers on Windows 10? But then I'm like, no, you bind to that, right? Somehow, I would think.
Very interesting. We live in interesting times.
You do.
Yeah.
Office updates.
I just threw this in there because Mary Jo and I were kind of talking about it in the briefest possible terms. But every month, Microsoft releases a list of changes that are coming to Office. Well, it's actually unclear what the timing is, right? And it's also unclear if these, and I believe these things are related to people who have Office 365 subscriptions because they get features first. Some of the things they're talking about have actually already been delivered. Some of them are coming in the next month. And every month is like this gigantic list of stuff. And sometimes if you use Office 2016, for example, on Windows, or actually the Office mobile apps as well, you know, some days you open up one of those apps and you get a little dialog box and it says, hey, we just added some stuff, you know, and this is kind of what that is. And I haven't written about this yet or even really looked at this list yet.
There's a lot of stuff in this latest round about integrating Skype into things like Office Online. So yet more
Fantastic.
Skype being integrated into all your Office apps. Just what Paul wants. He wants this.
Skype
More Skype, the
everywhere.
better.
Yeah.
Skype. Was it Brad who said Skype is Microsoft's iTunes?
Ooh, kind of. It's getting
Yikes.
there. It's getting there.
You know,
Yikes.
I think that was the quote.
It's depressing because we rely on it.
Yep.
Yeah, what else is in there? They talked about some of the things we've talked about on the show before around what's happening with OneDrive integration and with SharePoint 2016. That was a big theme for the month. Yeah, lots of minor updates. You know, it's really interesting to try to cover this and bring this out to readers because they're all now everything's a service. Everything's always being updated all the time. It's like, do I write about every little Outlook now integrated into Word Online? Do I do a whole story on that? You know.
Well, there's confusion too. I don't have this in the notes for whatever reason, and I probably should have added it. But this past week, somebody pointed out to me that if you go in Windows 10, if you go to the OneDrive Sync client, and this works on the 15.11 shipping version of Windows 10, it works on the Insider builds as well. There's a new interface on the account tab. It says add an account. It says you can get to both your work and personal files from the same interface. So there's add a personal account, add a business account. And it's like, when did that happen? I don't remember that happening. And so I played around with it. And the thing that's weird about it is from this one interface, you can actually add a OneDrive for Business account to the Windows shell. You don't have to have downloaded the Office suite like you used to have to do or connected to Office 365 in any way. It just does it for you. The end result is kind of strange. It's not actually all that integrated. Like if you use the OneDrive mobile clients on iOS, Android, or Windows Phone, the OneDrive app will provide you in one interface access to a single, I think, personal account and then multiple business accounts. But when you do it here, it actually works like it used to in the past where the business thing is separate from the personal thing and there's another icon in the tray. It's kind of strange. Anyway, I was confused about this, and so I kind of mentioned it on Twitter. And I had multiple people write me back and say, you wrote about this like a month ago.
I know.
And so I went back and looked at it, and I did sort of, but it was probably the April version of this announcement where they said, here are the things coming in the next month, April 2016. One of them was OneDrive for Business, new sync client is coming. But they never said it was going to be integrated with Windows 10. Like, the assumption is that they would deliver it, as they always deliver Office things, through Office.
Right.
So I did write about it, but I hadn't seen it. And the way they described it was a new next generation sync client for OneDrive for Business, which is a separate thing from OneDrive built into Windows 10. Except that it's kind of not now. So
right.
I did write about it, but it wasn't described in this way.
All these things that are bundled with Windows 10 now, the browser, the various sync clients or OneDrive apps. It's kind of
the Candy Crushes.
Right, the Candy Crushes. It's like they're treated now as part of the operating system, even though in many cases they're apps, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's another challenge again, because something's in preview, but it's in the operating system, but it's not really. It's an app, and just kind of
the
try to
flow
keep
chart you have to go through to help someone now is insane.
It is.
I'm having this problem with Windows 10. Okay. And then they describe it, and I'm looking at my computer. I don't see this thing, and they're like, "Oh, I'm on the Insider program." Okay. Yeah. Okay. Figure out where that thing hit. Are you in the slow ring or the fast ring? Like what? It's hard to know. It's different. There are sort of things I think of as core OS type stuff, and I guess the only ham-handed way to say that is things that are not universal Windows apps, right? That are, I think of as the OS, and then there are these apps that run on top of the OS, and those apps, if you're on the fast ring, you could get that upgrade today on the app. If you're in the slow ring, maybe you get it tomorrow, and if you're on 15.11, maybe you get it Friday or whatever. Like they're on their own little schedules, and it's like this gigantic mess. Like I don't know. I asked them to speed up, and then they did, and now
now you're complaining.
I can't keep it straight.
I only have one question for you. When do I get Bash on my regular Windows?
Actually, we can answer that question.
That's part of the anniversary?
That's right.
Okay.
So it's
July 29th or thereabouts.
Yep.
Because I'm trying to decide on this nice new computer, do I want to just stay with a regular ring, or should I?
I go through that on every computer I use, and I hold out, and then I realize I want to use something that's...
Yeah. Well, I have the Surface Book still. I think I'm going to use this. I'll talk about it, I guess.
Yeah.
It could be Leo's pick.
Yeah.
Leo's Hardware of the Week. When we get to the back of the book.
We don't ever say it like that, Leo. I don't know.
Well, you're about to, my friend.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about the bot assistant?
Yeah.
What's that?
So when Google was talking at I/O about where they're going with bots and how they're going to have more kind of personalized services available to you through their bot. Well, I was wondering if Microsoft was doing something equivalent with Bing. We know they're doing all kinds of other smaller bots that are integrating with Skype and Kik and Slack, but I was curious if they had kind of an Uber bot, and they do. It's called the Bing Concierge Bot.
Oh, see, that's exactly what Google's doing. It's kind of this intermediary.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to automatically complete tasks for users. An example, the user might ask, make me a reservation at an Italian place tonight. The agent will say how many people. That's what Microsoft is also building. I found it through a job posting on their career site, and as soon as I published this, they pulled the job posting immediately. And they won't talk about it. So we don't know when this is coming. We don't really know how Cortana fits in with the Bing Concierge Bot. We don't know how these other Bing powered bots, like the Skype bots that they're building, fit in with this Bing Concierge Bot. But we do know they're doing what Google's doing, and they're using their search engine to power this Concierge Bot. So kind of interesting. It kind of makes sense. I mean, you'd think they were doing it too if Google was doing that. And
I really like that idea. The bots experience that as Facebook envisioned it is so horrific.
Yeah.
Because you have to subscribe to individual bots, and then they pester you, and you're giving your information to 1-800-Flowers and to Poncho and all this stuff. I actually had to block Poncho like he was a stalker because he wouldn't respond to cancel, stop. It was like, what do you mean cancel? It was like, oh, so I blocked him. That's not what you want. What you want, and I think Google's doing this, and I'm glad to hear Microsoft is Bing should be my friend,
by the
my
way,
assistant.
when Microsoft announced those Skype bots, it worked like the Facebook stuff. You had to
It's terrible.
Add a bot as a friend, and then write them a message directly to get information. It was kind of hokey.
Yeah, it's hokey. It's onesie-twosie. And I think what this really is a larger thing that I'm very intrigued in, the post-app world, which is, what you describe with Skype and the way Facebook does is very much like installing an app. You want to do something on your phone, you have to install a specific app, and you have to interact with that app and that app alone. And Google's vision for the phone is, no, you just interact with the phone, and we'll get what you need And it's the
So-
same thing with the bots. And I think this is
I've
what
always
Bing should
called
do.
that pervasive computing, but Google's term for it I thought was very good. They call it ambient computing.
Oh, I like
Yeah,
that.
And that's
Microsoft
exactly
calls
right.
it that too.
Do they? Yeah, that's the right
Really?
term.
So that's the
It's-
term then. Okay.
That's a good word. You know,
The idea that the computer gets at, well, apps and the computer kind of get out of the way and you interact with your agent who, and this was very futuristic.
as necessary.
And it does, and it figures out how
This
to
is
do
going
what
to
you
ruin
want.
homework for everybody.
Oh yeah. In fact, Google did that in their demo of their little home thing. They they had the kid going, "Hey, Google, what's the word for orange in Spanish?"
Yeah, and then the Google thing says, "Why are you whispering?"
Yeah, Daddy. So I like that. It's the Bing Assistant. The thing is, by the way, Microsoft has a better shot at competing with Google on this than Apple does.
I know.
Or even Amazon.
Even Facebook.
Or
Or
Facebook.
Amazon.
Yeah.
I know. You have to have a search engine, really, to pull this
I
off.
agree.
By the way, a search engine job one, but you know what else they have? They have this like deep machine learning
Yep.
back end
Exactly.
in the cloud that I mean
They have
this is not-
Qi-Lu, baby. Qi-Lu.
Yeah,
You
you
they
can't duplicate
Yep.
this in your garage.
and I think Microsoft's in the lab's probably been doing this for as long as Google has.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And see,
Google
Apple's
and
going to be.
Microsoft are actually very much alike.
I agree. I think there's some competition here. The Apple's going to be a little bit in the cold because they rightly say, well, we don't want to gather information about our users.
Well, but they have Apple has a secret weapon, Leo.
What?
2 words: rose gold.
Apple's increasingly about fashion. It really is.
So just don't
look at their new store.
don't
It's
forget.
not a Genius Bar. It's the Genius Grove.
You know what?
Yeah.
But if you're Apple, here's what you do. You do a
Where
deal
customers
with
graze.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
You
Right.
do the deal for the Bing bot
Right.
with Microsoft.
That's what you have to do. Yeah. And let Microsoft snoop on our users.
Yeah, which of these technologies will upset our users less?
Well, remember Bing is actually the default engine in Siri, right? Like when you go and do a web search through Siri, it goes to Bing.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Microsoft did that, didn't they?
Well, that explains
Yeah.
a few things.
How do I get gosh darn it. Okay.
What?
Sorry.
What's the matter?
I come to you for support.
What's wrong? What's wrong, Leo?
Okay, remember at the beginning of the show I said I don't understand why this is that
I
new
don't
Dell,
understand why either.
HP.
So did you go into settings?
It did, and it still has a pin, and it says, and it just no longer will accept a pin.
Did you log out and the pin was not there? Again?
Yeah. It goes to
So-
sleep.
I don't know why it did it, but one thing I would try would be to remove the pin and then re-add it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going to shut down, too, and reboot and all that stuff. Which means I
don't know that I've ever seen a Windows PC do that.
This never happened to me before. Just spontaneously decided the pin wasn't good enough. I thought maybe it had to do with a hot fix or something, an update, but I don't know. Because Apple does that all the time, by the way. Apple drives me crazy. No, you can't. Oh no, you can't use your fingerprint now. You got to.
So you just touched on something that's really bothered me. I do a lot of testing of alternate things. I use a Mac, I use a Chromebook, and I'm kind of amazed both of those systems don't offer any kind of a PIN login.
No,
or
Chromebook, you have to enter your Google
fingerprint.
password every time.
I find it to be very annoying, and I'm surprised by that. That's one area where it's not the reason why you choose Windows, but it's an awesome thing about Windows 10 that you can do a
Love it.
PIN password
Or the picture.
fingerprints or.
I don't know how secure the picture is, but there is a rumor that Apple's going to add fingerprints to its next MacBooks. So
What is taking so long? I mean, that should be on MacBooks. They're
Everybody
expensive
should.
machines.
Windows Hello, a lot of credit to Microsoft for that.
Yeah.
By the way, no Hello camera in this, so I have to.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not too sad about that.
Too thin, probably. But does it have a fingerprint reader?
No,
Yeah, that's no good.
no touch, no fingerprint, no Hello camera. So I've
The
got.
new ThinkPads have a fingerprint, like a press type thing, like on an iPhone, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
I would love to see that.
Yep.
And I feel like it's more secure too. Maybe I'm deluding myself, but I feel like it's more secure. So I don't have the notes anymore since I've shut this down. Is there anything else
Excellent.
before the back of the book, or should we?
I think there's one more
No,
thing, isn't
I think
there?
it's-
No.
No, we already talked about the OneDrive.
Oh, we talked. Okay, I'm sorry. It wasn't in the notes. Okay.
Yeah.
Then let's talk about Igloo software. I think that an intranet is often, we have our intranet here, and I think if you've ever worked in a company that's larger than a few people, you have to have an internal network where information is, where people collaborate, they communicate with calendars, booking conference rooms, all that stuff. The intranet. Igloo software is a better intranet. It's a cloud platform with all the security of something running on-prem, but it helps you do all the things you want to do. It's very modern, so you could share files, collaborate on documents. It's got blog updates. So different, the HR can have their blog, the CEO can have her blog, coordinate calendars, manage projects, and anyone can add content. You just have to sign the right permissions. So different people have different capabilities. There are drag and drop widgets which let you add all sorts of capabilities. And unlike a lot of platforms, you get it all at one price. They don't onesie twosie. Oh, you want to do that? Well, that'll be $5 a month per seat. No, they don't do that. You get it all. A variety of access, authentication, and identity services. So, it's secure. Of course, private clouds. You can do it over SSL. You can do it with 256-bit encryption. You can completely customize it to fit your needs and work with your current IT investments on like Office 365 or Salesforce or SharePoint or Active Directory. Works with Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, Zendesk if you want for support tickets. And I think they do have an on-prem. I shouldn't say they don't. I bet you they do have an on-prem, but I'll tell you what, you can check it out. Go to Igloo, IGLOO, software.com/twit, and sign up for a live demo, or download it and try it for free. You can actually do it yourself. Get your own Igloo for a download. I don't think it's a download. Just sign up for 10 people, and this is nice. If you're a small group or a small business, or you have a small work group you want to try this out with, it's free for up to 10 people forever. You could use this, Paul, for your Xbox buddies. You could have your own intranet. I think this is cool, actually. Igloo. igloosoftware.com/twit. IGLOO software.com/TWIT. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly.
Last time I did something like that, it was IPX, SPX, and it was 1995-ish.
Wow. Remember we were
playing Doom.
Oh, boy. Did you finish, by the way? The new Doom?
Not quite. I'm still playing it. I've gotten to the hell levels.
Oh, wow. Well, when you say finish, you finish all the way.
I'm going to play. Yeah, I'm going to play.
You're not talking getting through it on easy mode.
No. No, I play it on a big boy mode.
Big boy. Get your big boy pants on.
Yeah.
With your elite joystick, you crazy guy, you.
Yep.
So, time for your tip of the week, my friend. That's why I'm looking at you.
Right. Hi.
Hi.
So, when Microsoft launched their newest Lumia flagships last December, they were way too expensive. And they still are, really. Although there have been various sales and so forth over the months. Through the end of the month, though, they're actually having a pretty good sale on the Lumia 950 XL, which, chances are if you wanted such a thing, you probably already bought it. And I understand that the market for this thing probably isn't so great. But remember, this thing has an awesome camera. It is the phablet-sized thing. I don't have one. I actually only have a 950. But it's $150 off. But you also get that Microsoft Display Dock, which is that Continuum dock, which I also do have, which is pretty excellent, again, if you want such a thing. And the funny thing about this is, for now, through the end of the month, the 950 XL is actually $50 less expensive than the 950 because of the sale price. So it's normally $650, but the price is $550, and the display dock is worth $100. So it's, if you wanted all of that stuff, it's like getting it for $250 off. So head over to the Microsoft store if you are so inclined. That may be the last time I ever have a tip about buying a Windows phone, but you never know.
Remember those days when you used to talk about buying Windows phones? Remember
which
those?
one you should pick. And
which one you should get.
Why it was so much better than an iPhone.
Yeah, remember those days?
A little bit. Yeah.
You might wait a little longer. I bet you the price goes down even more.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Ouch.
Ow!
Fair enough.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was mean.
While supplies last,
yeah.
as we say.
Yeah. We got a whole warehouse full of them.
As far as the software pick, again, I'm doing the Duplex mobile app pick of the week. This one's kind of interesting. There's some different apps that are in the top 10 and so forth, but I thought this one was kind of cool. It's called Planner 5D. It's basically it's a 3D. It's a 2D and 3D application.
You mean time isn't one of the dimensions?
Yes, actually, right. You can go back in time and fix your house in the past.
That'd
It's
be
nice. It enables you to
this is cool,
design
actually.
rooms and homes and exterior and interior design process. There's obviously a lot of apps like this, but this one's really cool looking, and it's a universal Windows platform app. It only runs on PC though; it's not for mobile. But I love this kind of thing. My wife and I watch a lot of these home, repair, home buy, house hunter kind of things, and we're kind of hooked on these like tiny home shows now. Which
I love tiny homes.
Yeah. The shows are so terrible.
I know, but I fantasize about owning one.
Yeah, and I always think like, okay, if we were going to do this, I would not make the same mistakes that these people make again and again and again. Anyway, this app could help you design that kind of thing. It's kind of cool.
Now, for $10 more, you get access to the catalog of all the different furniture and all that stuff. But it's free for the base. Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
I just go and live in an IKEA for a month or two every few years.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I'm in a tiny
Right. I just need a container box full of IKEA.
Yeah. That'll do it.
That would be enough.
That'll do it. Mary Jo Foley, Enterprise Pick of the Week time.
Right. So we were talking earlier about the Windows 7 convenience roll-up and Paul's many trials and tribulations with that roll-up. He's not the only one. I'm hearing from tons of people who are, man, this is taking forever. And then once I actually get it installed, then I have to wait forever for the first scan to happen. So here's my advice. Go to the Microsoft Ask Premier Field Engineering Platforms blog. It's called the Ask PFE blog. Just look for that. And they have a new post from late last week about the convenience roll-up with lots of tips and tricks about how to make the installation much faster and easier. And even after you get it installed, how you can improve the speed of the first scan. It's very detailed information. I've got a blog post on it on my site if you want to kind of skim through it and see what they're talking about. But there are a few things you can do to cut down on the installation time, especially if you're installing it on a new system or if you're an enterprise user and you need to install it on multiple systems. There are some tricks for that as well. And I have a second quick pick for the enterprise pick. There's a brand new site on azure.microsoft.com, which is totally dedicated to Azure security information. They built a site just focused expressly on that. So it gives you information on all of the Azure features that have a security component like Key Vault, Security Center, what you can do around multi-factor authentication. You go to the site, you can click the link, you get all the documentation on all of those features. It's super handy if you have to do anything that touches on any of the security features that are part of Azure. The way to find that is to go to azure.microsoft.com, and then there's a separate tab for documentation and security. So check that one out too. We'll have the exact address for that in the show notes when we publish the show notes.
Excellent. Beer of the week comes from
I have a rumor of the week.
Oh, I forgot the rumor. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Instead of code name of the week. This is a very interesting rumor. So next week is Computex in Taiwan. And Microsoft's going to have a fairly large presence at that show. They're going to be talking about Windows 10, of course, and also talking about the HoloLens. But I'm hearing they also may do kind of a quick little sneak peek about how to use virtual reality headsets with Windows 10. And they may show some demos there during the keynote about what partners will do in terms of connecting virtual reality headsets to Windows 10 using partner-made dongles. So I'm really curious what they're going to show there. They've talked a little bit in the past about partnerships they have with Oculus. I forget who else they have a VR partnership with. Paul, do they have
probably
any other
HTC
VR partnerships?
Vive, maybe?
Yeah, maybe the Vive. Yeah, they do, because they show that off in the Microsoft New York store. So I don't know what else they'll be showing, but I know during the Google I/O keynote, they talked a lot about Daydream, which is what's next for them around virtual reality headsets in partnership with the various OEMs. So I think this is Microsoft's Daydream that we might see bits and pieces of next week.
Like third-party partnerships.
What a day for a daydreaming
not
boy.
Not a Microsoft headset. Not a Microsoft doing a VR headset. More partners doing it.
We just lost Leo.
I'm a dreamer.
Dongle and Daydream.
What? Well, wait till we do the beer. Then you're really going to lose me. Time for our beer of the week.
Yeah, beer of the week. So I am in Seattle this week, and I got to go to a brewery that's kind of a cult brewery here that's like really well known among their aficionados. It's called Holy Mountain Brewing. And they're a little bit hard to find, but they're actually, as I put in the show notes, a short hop, unintended, from downtown. But the beer I had from there was not a hoppy beer. Paul will be happy to hear. It's a new beer they just brewed recently called Holy Mountain Witchfinder. It's a saison, very much in like a Belgian style, kind of rustic saison. What I liked about it is very light, very spring-like, kind of floral, very easy to drink. Because some saisons can be a little almost grainy in my view, but this one just is all lovely, almost like a glass of wine, except a beer. It's Brett conditioned, which means it has Brett yeast in there, so it gives it a little bit of the sour.
Oh, I thought Brett was like this guy.
Yeah, no, not Brett,
it's
the
kind
guy.
Of yeast. Lefevre flavored.
New. Yes.
all the Favre flavor.
No, not that. Yeah, but if you're in Seattle visiting Microsoft sometime and you want to go to a different brewery than all the amazing ones they have on the east side, go west to Seattle and go to Holy Mountain.
Go west, young man.
That's my tip.
Very nice. Very nice. I got a review for this. It's nice. It's nice. It's light.
How's the keyboard?
Keyboard's excellent. Better than the MacBook. This is HP's Spectre 13T, the one that we talked about that's kind of made out of chocolate and melted bronze or something. It's beautiful. It's I think you nailed it, Paul, when you said it's designed for the executive, right? Yes. Yeah. Because it's so light. But the keyboard's a full keyboard. You're missing a few features. No Windows Hello, no touch screen, no fingerprint reader. But good sound out of the stereo B&O speakers. Not you're not rocking and rolling, but pretty good sound. Great screen.
With most of the problems, but they really got to figure out fingerprint reader.
Yeah, I'd love that. 1080p screen. I do like the look of the hinges. I mean, it's just they're just hinges.
Yeah. Artistic.
Artistic.
It's like
I love it that it has 3 Type-C ports. I think that's really great. In fact, the main reason I got it is trying to understand why Apple persists in making a MacBook with 1 Type-C port. And it ain't the thinness, the lightness. I don't know. This one has a little more room because it's a bigger screen. But they have 3 ports, 2 of which are Thunderbolt 3. They take advantage of the Skylake processors. And yes, I have a M7 in here. You can go all the way up to an M7 if you want. So very fast. A really speedy little speed demon. Only a couple of negatives. One is that, and I mentioned this before the show, you have to use the HP power adapter, even though it's a Type-C connector, and every other Type-C device I have will work with any other Type-C power adapter. This one is HP specific.
It doesn't do power. The ports don't deliver power to the machine.
Right. You have to use the HP adapter. You can charge a phone from any of the 3 ports. Weirdly enough, you can also power it from any of the 3 ports. So that's nice. It means it's more flexible in that respect.
I'm sorry. Wait. Sorry. It's a proprietary HP brick,
even though
it's still USB.
It's Type-C, I've tried it with every Type-C adapter, Type-C power supply I have, including Apple's and Chromebooks.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Yeah, you have to buy an HP.
I thought it was the barrel on both.
No.
Okay.
What they're doing, obviously, is they're doing a little check, see if it has the right HP smell or something, and then it will. So if you put anything else in there, it won't power it up. So we, for instance, and that's a little bit frustrating. We bought a dock. A lot of Type-C computing devices have docks. The MacBook has to. This one has 2 USB 3s, an HDMI port, and those work fine. But it also has an external power port doesn't work.
Right, like a pass-through almost.
Pass-through, but it doesn't pass through because when I plug this into it, it doesn't power the HP.
It detects the
you have to have this plugged directly into one of the 3 Type-C ports. And it's just a 45-watt Type-C power adapter, but apparently they've decided in their infinite wisdom that they only want to work with their own adapters. And that's, to me, that's a shame. And it's no different than any other laptop. They're all proprietary, but I was hopeful that we were moving to a world where we didn't have proprietary connectors anymore.
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
I'll ask again about that.
Would you? And maybe there's something I can do to
I
fix
misunderstood.
that. I do like it. I mean, it's 2.5 pounds.
I think you might have referenced this earlier. There's a problem with USB-C cables where some of them can actually screw up the device.
That's not related. That screws up the device. If I plug a bad USB-C cable to charge a phone into here, it would overdraw, but not the other way. Okay. I mean, of course, there's always a risk if you plug somebody else's power adapter into your computer. And companies might use that as an excuse to say, "Oh no, it has to be HP branded." I'm sure that's what they'll tell you, but Apple doesn't do it. Google doesn't do it with their Pixel.
If anyone was going to do it, it would be
Apple or Google, right? Yeah. I can use a phone charger. I mean, it's slow, but it works. You can't use anything but HPs, and that means that's less of a desirable device for me because I was hoping to be able to, I have lots of Type-C power bricks now.
Sure.
Anyway, the price is good too. It's better. It's roughly Apple MacBook price. Starts at $1,200, and this one, as equipped with the M7 512 gig hard drive, 8 gigs of RAM, was $14.99. Very nice. I mean, it's executive.
It's no Chromebook. I mean, I think just
Paul Thurrott, folks. He's at Thurrott.com. And you can find him there, and he's also got lots of great books. You'll find him at leanpub.com. See, I remembered this time. Mary Jo Foley is a blogger for ZDNet at allaboutmicrosoft.com. And they join us every Wednesday, about 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC, to talk about Microsoft. If you want to tune in live, please do. But if not, on-demand audio and video is always available after the fact. Just go to twit.tv/dubdub. Or you can find it on all the podcast programs, download a copy, and listen and enjoy. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, sir.
On Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.